Happy
Gets in your
Monday.
head, man. Gets in your head. Happy Monday. Wow.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Speaking of happy Mondays, what is better than waking up on a Monday knowing your team's won? Lay it on us, man. Lay it on us. What happened?
Well, they won. What is better than going to sleep on a Sunday knowing your team has won? I don't want to put too much value on this. However, I will say that watching the Champions League final yesterday was Sunday, was amazing because it was great soccer. It was really great football. And I would have said so even if Munich had lost. This was one of the few finals where I thought, wow, even if the other team wins, I would still think, what a great game. And this was amazing. This was great spectation, right? Spectators' expectations
That's
met.
a good word. Spectation. It's a spectacular, spectational.
It was spectacular. So, yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Monday and episode 36 of the Two Chaps Many Cultures live show. And I'm indulging my wonderful friends here, passion for the game, which I also share as well. But it was his home team that, of course, was successful on the weekend. May have gone to bed with a few adult beverages, warming the back of the throat, I assume.
Cooling the back of the throat.
Cooling the back of the throat. Okay, cooling the back of the throat. Well, congratulations, my friend. Which brings us to today's topic about leadership in good and bad times, because there is a bit of a backstory, of course, and I'm assuming that with the stories that come out of all types of sporting analogies, and we referenced sporting metaphors the other day, oftentimes it doesn't take you too much to dig into the history or the setting up of a success like yesterday. But not only the success, the failures. Not both teams can't win, but
right.
There are great things about both sides. I'm just going to open the floor, because I think this is a great topic, and let's go to it. Yeah,
I would open the floor to anyone who's watching this. If you're watching this live or the recording, I would be really curious to read and see what lessons you draw from these events. It doesn't have to be the specific one that I am just happy about now, but I've seen others, right? So it's not that my team is always on the winning end of things. What I think resonated with me and got me a little bit emotional was not so much the fact that the team that I support won the tournament or won the title. It was how both teams responded right after the game was finished. And so there's a lot of this, a lot of narratives go into professional sports. There are the characters that are created or drawn out, right? Not always are these characters the real people that are playing, but there is a lot of storytelling. It can be easily marketed. So you have let me paraphrase first, so because some of you may not even know what I'm talking about. So this was soccer, or football as we say in Europe, and it was the Champions League, and Munich played Paris, and Munich won. End of story. Well, you might think so. So one of the top players on the Paris side is a young gentleman from Brazil, Neymar Jr., and he has been a dramatic figure in world soccer for many years. So he was on the Brazilian national team that infamously lost to Germany in their home World Cup in 2014, and he's this one of these superstars. He's the one of the most expensive players on the planet, and has he always lived up to all these expectations? Well, that's the drama that surrounds him. So his team loses, and this guy is devastated by the looks on his face. He was crying. There were tears running down his face. A grown man over a game of football, right? And it was not the winning side who ignored that. The one of the players on the winning side of the Munich team, the first thing they did before they even partied or celebrated with their teammates, he saw the opponent in despair and walked over to him, and the cameras captured it and consoled him. And we don't know what they talked about, but the cameras captured this interaction, and you see the nonverbal communication happening between the two players on the opposite team. So I think this shows how you, as leaders, get your teams ready, get your employees, get your group of people who work towards the same goal, how you set their mind right in the event of success or the event of delayed or prevented success. And I'm deliberately not saying failure. And how these players interacted with each other after the blow of the whistle, I thought was magnificent. And then when it came to the celebration ceremony, when they hand over the trophy, first the defeated team walks the plank, so to say, and they have to look at the pot, at the trophy, and they can't touch it, right? And at the end of that, I'm going to try to pull up this image here. Here you see Neymar as he just received his medal of participation, the biggest insult here, right? You lose the final, you're the first loser, you would think. And here's Paris's coach. The guy broke his foot, so he could barely stand, right? So he's got a cast. The picture doesn't capture that. So the guy's in a cast. He's standing up and waits until every one of his players walks down and walks past that trophy that you see in the background. And he had a hug or a fist bump or an elbow bump or whatever. He had a word for every team member. And you could see that he did not try to console them, that it looked like he was building them up. And leading in times of defeat, I think that's where the true human skills, where the true people skills come out, or they don't. Right, and if they don't come out, that I think that would be a telltale sign. So I don't know how this gentleman interacts with his team. Doesn't really matter. All I see what the cameras captured, and it was, I think, obvious to observers that there is a team that, despite the fact that they feel downtrodden right now because they didn't win this, and they could have, they were this close, there is somebody at the helm of this. There is somebody leading this group, blowing new life into them. And I would be very surprised if the Paris team were not, again, a very, very strong contender in the next season. And this, I think, is what separates the good leaders from wannabe leaders, is how you respond in the bad times, how you have your team ready in bad times. So that is something that I really resonated with me, aside from the fact that I was happy that my team won.
I think a lot of the best leaders that I've served with alongside or under, my early career, have been the ones that have taken these defeats and express them in the terms of them being the end of the storm and the beginning of the removal of the clouds. I mean, it stings. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of some pretty devastating losses as a sports person, and perhaps even in business as well. But I think to this day, I wouldn't trade them for the world. I wouldn't trade them for the world. I think they're, and especially because I've had the good fortune of having leaders beside me and with me that have taken those moments and used them as a stepping stone into things because these players are at the top of their game. They've experienced some of the best highs in the world, right?
Right.
And you look at many of the best, most accomplished sporting figures in our history. I guess, yes, I mean, especially currently, they're all very well paid. They're very well, I mean, in most sports anyway, the most high profile sports, they're very well paid, perhaps not in all. That really probably wouldn't matter to a lot of them, all right? It's just a means to an end. I mean, but it is really a lesson that even before all that kind of thing came along, there were still sportsmen achieving at the highest level and achieving great things individually or as a team, even before the big money came in. So the big money came in later, and that was influenced by marketing. The actual practice of doing the sport and achieving and aspiring to greater things was always there. So I think that as a leader, is there a definition? I want to ask the question, is there actually good times and bad times? Is there, isn't there kind of always, as a leader, do you always just blindly go forward without considering that there's some things in the background that could still go possibly wrong, and put things in the store for those times, but also take advantage of those? And that's a question I would ask culturally. Is there I've worked with a lot of executives that approach that from a different point. You know, they say, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll just move on. I'll leave the damage for somebody else to take care of. Or I want to be here for the long term and really serve the people and the customers that I am here to serve. And I want to make sure that, you know, like, as we know, and current times notwithstanding, right, bad times come. There is a wave and a hill and a valley.
It is cyclical, right? And putting your head in the sand and pretending that it won't happen is naive. And I think that is what maybe unexperienced leaders will do, that they will surf the wave and enjoy the wave while they surf it, and don't remember or may not be aware that it may crash very, very soon, and then you need to have a contingency plan in place. What I recognize, and I've had this conversation over the weekend because I've been doing some training work over the weekend, and this came up in various conversations, how you as a company or as a leader prioritize resources or allocate resources in times of a downward trend. And we are globally going through a downward trend. You and I, we live in the United States. The quarterly numbers that we've seen are alarming, I would say. I think this is the biggest recession the United States has seen since the Great Depression in the 1930s. So this is, economically speaking, we're seeing trends that are worse than the 2008 to 2009 recession in the US. So what do organizations do? What do leaders do in face of a looming downturn, or if they're caught in the midst of that storm? Do they weasel themselves through with reduced effort? Or do you hold on to, if we're talking storm analogy, are you holding on to that rudder, and are you putting an extra sail up and say, we got to get out of this, and we do this as a team with all the resources that we pull together because you are the best people for this organization, that's why we hired you, and now full forward. And I'm dealing with both types of organizations, right? I'm dealing with clients, existing clients that I've had for years, who are cutting back and telling me, well, we need to reprioritize, and the type of services that you provide for us are not top of mind for us right now. And do I let them get away with this, or do I have any influence over that? Remains to be seen. And there are the other clients who say, well, this is the best time to invest in ourselves, right? Because we can't fix these problems with the same mindsets that we had when we entered the problem. I'm not saying the skills and level and capabilities that created the problem. None of us created Corona, at least no individual that I know, or no organization that I know created it as a singular organization or as a singular individual. We as humanity may be responsible for this development, but it's not something that you could accuse one individual or an organization for. So it's still going into this unprecedented scenario that we are living through right now. The skill sets, the abilities, the capabilities that you have as an individual or as an organization need to adjust. So if you want to sail through this storm, what are you going to do? Are you going to rely on the skills that you had before that? Or are you doubling down and say, okay, now what do we do? How do we develop? How do we make ourselves better to get out of this? Yeah. And I think this is what leadership in bad times, in my opinion, should be. It should be leadership that recognizes that there might be a gap that we have. There might be a skills or knowledge or experience or capabilities gap that we need to fix. And whether we can fix it with the means that we have already, fine. If not, who do you turn to? Do you turn to the Bretts, to the Christians, to the other people in our industry to make you stronger teams, or not? Or do you try to be the ostrich with the head in the sand? That's, I think, the question that an organization or a leader has to answer for themselves in bad times.
Yeah. And, you know, the people, whatever influence you can have as a person inside an organization, it's been years since I've actually had a real job, but so I may not be the best person to speak to as that. But it really is whatever organization you're serving, whether it be a corporate organization or a non-profit, anything you're serving, you should be always questioning the processes, right? Are the processes there set up to respond to the good and bad times equally?
Right.
And does it empower the people in the organization to teach, reach out, and support each other in these times? Because that is where the weak link will come up when bad times come out. When you have a person or a group of people or a process that fails because it's not set up, they're not set up ready for the challenges that come along. So, I mean, there's many books and smarter people than you or I that have written about this in the past, and so we continue to learn and we continue to kind of build. But I guess if you reach out, if you find information like that, going into resources, we've all got a public forum these days, right? We've all got Facebook, we've all got LinkedIn, places where we can put out content in your own voice that people will value, that people will say, oh, I didn't see that. I haven't done that before. I haven't looked at that idea before. Good friend of ours, Karen, is saying there is too often fear, lack of vision associated with investing in the infrastructure, and reactive versus proactive mindset. That's the key, right? It's proactive. It's thinking ahead, doing what's necessary. I think Barbara, our good friend Barbara at CV from Europe, is on at the moment, and I mean, there's a case for a person that was ready-made for this situation, somebody who already had in their mind this practice of taking virtual settings or building in virtual skills, but doing that in a way that brought in a whole bunch of people, right? And not didn't say, I know how to do it, follow me. It is like, I think I've got an idea and I'm opening up a space for everybody to share and be enriched by it. So this has been, there she is.
You talked about her and there she shows up.
But these are the people that people follow, right? And not so much follow. They're not asking to be followed. They're asking to just look at my idea. This is what I've got. Do you think it's of value? Can you add to it? Can you make it better? That's the thing. That's what I love about people like that. Yeah.
Well, and this is the time when these ideas get an audience, because in boom times, it's easy to shoot these ideas down, right? It's easy to say, "Oh, I don't have time for this," and why fix something that isn't broken, and why should I listen to disruption because they're smooth sailing. And when the storm clouds come, it may already be too late to look at that. And I really resonate with what Karen commented earlier about the reluctance to invest in infrastructure in downtimes, because this is what will kill you in the next step. Because if you're not building the runway now, then your airplane will not take off once the storm is clear. Now is the time to double down on this. Now is the time to invest in infrastructure, whether that is your human capital, which is a term that I'm a little bit at odds with, but with whether that be your employees, your intellectual power that you have in your organization, or whether that be in technology. There's so much you can now set into place that when we have better economic circumstances, then we're ready to run here.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of comments coming in here from Barbara. What did you say here? I want to make sure. One thin thing, I guess, about proactive mindset. I believe very often really interactive people become entrepreneurs. Yeah, I would agree so too. That is when employees recognize that if their company isn't listening to their ideas, then that employee might become an entrepreneur and do their own thing, right? Here, another one here. Barbara says investment in infrastructure during bad times is macroeconomic policy. Depending on the country, there is a lot of investment. Yes. Yeah, there's probably a lot of economists out there that may prove us right or wrong. I don't care. Bring it on, people.
Yes, absolutely. The many things have been written on this subject, so we're not going to cover it all today. But this is, I mean, I guess what we're doing here is just kind of we're pricking the balloon, opening up the space, right, for the conversation.
And since Barbara is on, I need to say this: the Munich player that was the consoling player that took Neymar in his arm and tried to make things better in the moment. He is a fellow Austrian, right, Barbara? So it was David Alaba, the Austrian national player on the Munich team, who made sure that Neymar wouldn't completely collapse, which I thought was a really fun gesture.
Yeah, it was a diverse team, you know, and the manager, it wasn't I mean, there was a little bit of kind of management or destabilized management in that team, I guess, in the last few years. Was that from the Munich team? Yeah.
Even there was even a New York Times article over the weekend profiling the Munich manager. He came in as a kind of a last resort solution, like a seat warmer until they find a new star coach. Let this gentleman do his job, and he will contain the damage until we have like a big name. And well, Hansi Flick, that's his name, Hans-Dietrich Flick. He proved to be the star solution. So he was like, okay, we'll turn this around. And here's the thing: he did not change the setup of the team. He did not fire people. He did not ask the club ownership to invest in new talent. He took what he found and brought out the best in them.
Yeah.
I think it was Austro-American management guru. I can't think of his name. That's the problem with aging. So there was one management guru whose name will come back to me, or maybe Brett or somebody else will remind me of him, who said, "Don't change people. You can't change people. Just work with what you have and make the best of the resources available to you." Yeah. And that's what Mr. Flick did. He became a leader with great emotional intelligence, with human skills, with people skills, because all these guys, they know how to play the game. All these guys are really the cream of the crop in their field, in their industry, if you will, in their profession. So it's hard to teach these guys a new trick. Peter Drucker, see, I knew Barbara would come up with it. Peter Drucker, that's what I meant to say. There we go. Thank you, Barbara. So you can't teach these guys new tricks, or it's hard to do that. They already know what they're doing. Making them being the orchestra conductor who makes sure that every of these individual instruments plays at their best and creates that symphony is what great leaders do. And looks like Mr. Flick found a really great answer. That is not to diminish from the Paris manager's efforts. He apparently is also a very, very good coach, and it was this close. And yet how they turn things around, I think there's a lot of lessons to be drawn from sports, as we already discussed on Friday. I mean, some of these great football coaches, they wrote books about leadership, and rightfully so, because there's a lot of lessons to be drawn from that.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, some of the best books in business are written by sporting figures, right? And yeah, well, that's it. Another Monday in the can. And I would thank you for the comments. Thank you for coming along and joining us again on episode 36. We're heading into the end of this week. We'll be at 40 episodes. I'm looking forward to that. Crazy. We do have some guests this week. We do have one already, and maybe actually I did. I'm going to call you, Barbara. We have some spots. We have a spot this week, but we are going to have some guests this week, as we always do. And again, as always, if you're watching the replay, please add your comments even in the replay. And also, if you've got an idea, a topic, anything you want us to discuss at any time.
Yeah.
We are here at your service. That is
not that we would ever run out of things to talk about.
No.
But we want to honor your preference. Also, I mean, you see this ticker, right? This is not just window dressing. This is information for you. This is where you find us. So how long do I have to wait till you subscribe to Brett's YouTube channel? I mean, that can't be so hard. Go over there, click on subscribe, and do it, because you're watching the replay, most likely. That means you missed the live version. You would have gotten a notification. So it's as easy as that. It doesn't cost you a thing. So subscribe to Brett's YouTube, subscribe to mine, go follow us. We're friendly. We're just two white blokes chatting about all sorts of stuff.
We don't bite. We don't bite.
I rarely bite.
Rarely bite. All right, guys, thank you again for joining. We're so grateful, as always, and we will see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right.
Tomorrow. See you.
See y'all.